Joe, thanks. Let's put our heads together for him. Don't mind him, but my brother he's good at washing. You know when they say people that like to wash, that know how to wash. Yeah. So thank you for the opportunity. Where do I start from? My name is Egogo. Igogo. My middle name is Joy. But I usually insist on people calling me Igogo because I'll tell them I'm not English. So if they say, "What's your name?" I say Igogo. They say, "What's your English name?" I'm like, "I'm not English. My name is Igogo." But if I'm in the mood, I'll say, "Oh, my English name is Joy." So it's a privilege. Thank you to the Len team, Gypsy, husband and wife, every, for the opportunity to speak. Ah, man, you know this thing where they say a lawyer's tool is words, right? But when it's now time to speak, sometimes everything you know that feeling when you get into the hall and you see the question, and then everything you read,
Just feel free.
then you now say,
Thank you.
uh-uh.
Thank you.
You know, you now calm down and then you then be able to speak about what you or write about what you've learned. So thank you for the opportunity. Um, I'm not speaking here as an authority. I know he has said, "Oh, I'm this, I'm that." I'm not speaking here as an authority because I also understand that we're all learning. Do you get it? We're all learning. I'm learning from you. You're learning from me. I'm learning from life. I'm learning from my experiences, successes, failures, and the whole, shebang. But I'm just going to be sharing my experience. I'm hoping that from my experience or some of my stories or some of my principles, I'm really, 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 really hoping, honestly, that somewhere along the line in your life, you would remember this talk and you say, "Oh, this was one thing I learned from that talk, and this was something that I took with me, and it has helped me along my life's journey." So just look for one thing. The last speaker was speaking about one thing. So if there's just one thing that you get from, what I'm going to share today, I think I would consider the whole experience a success. So where do I start from? I've spoken about myself. I'm the sixth child of seven children. Can you hear me? Okay, sorry. Okay, said I should be audible. You know what? All those pastors that used to, I don't know how to. Yeah, but I'll try my best. Okay. So, in terms of like my professional background, what do I do now? I work in house as company secretary and GM legal for an integrated energy company. We work, we're like Africa focused, Nigeria focused, but we work in Nigeria primarily in the Niger Delta and across the entire energy value chain, really. So I advise, on legal issues. But in the last, say, 4, 5 years, I've also pivoted from just a pure legal advisory role to also like a business management role. And I'll talk more about that as we go ahead. So, how did I start? My parents would say that as a child, when I come back from school, I won't eat. I'll take a small bench. I'll say, "No, I must do my homework. I'll do my homework." And they paint this picture of me being a very studious child. But what I remember about being a child was I didn't like going to school in the morning. When they wake me up, I'll go somewhere else, cover myself, sleep. Then they'll be like, "Oh, this person has taken a bath, this person has taken a bath. Oh, where is this girl?" Then they'll find me, they'll bathe me while they are prepping the other siblings because we're seven, so it's a big family. I'm hiding somewhere sleeping. So I don't really think, at least from what I recall, I don't think I really liked going to school. But my parents said I did, and I was a very studious, individual. But I think somewhere along the line, based on the kind of family I grew up in, I didn't have a choice because my father was and still is a stickler for academic success. So I don't know how some people passed without being serious about school because that's not how we were raised. Okay, I think I should hold it like this. That's not how we were raised. So I finished secondary school. Well, I think I brought a book today. I think I'll talk a bit about it. I got this book when I was in SS3, and I used it. I think I was in like my meetings at the time. I used it up until a couple of years in uni, and I had written in this book some of my goals, even as a student in secondary school. I was already like writing out. I was looking at it today, and I was seeing things I had written about WAEC. What did I write? I said, Jam, I want to get 250. In fact, my plan was that my face would be at the back of the brochure because I was just going to scale that jam. Who knows what I got in jam? Can someone guess? 200. Who says 200? Okay, I'm looking for a lower number. A lower number. 150. I made 150 in jam. In fact, when I saw the jam, I was like, never, this can't be my jam. Because I read for that jam. You know those people that used to jack, as in I read for that. I said my face must be on this brochure. Who are these people? 300. I was like, my face must be on this brochure. And I wrote other things. Maths, I said I'll have a B3. I ended up getting a B3. English, I said A1. I didn't have A1. I had a B3 because later on I came back and I wrote the actual grades. Literature in English, I said A1. I had a C5. Government, I said B2. I had a B2. Biology, I said A1 or B2. I had a B3. Agric, I said A1. I had a C5. Economics, I said B3. I had a B3. CRS, and I'm a child of God. Oh. CRS, I said B2. Who can guess what I had? You're right. It was a D7. And the truth about it is, those days when you want to check your WIC results, like you go to the cyber cafe and the page starts loading like line by line. And the first line that came on was CRS, and I saw D7. I was like, hey, this result is going to be bloody. So I was just praying, but eventually, it all worked out. But I would say yes. I've been like what you would call that kind of studious, person. I'm very goal driven. Think about it like I've been writing all these things. I'm like, this is where I want to be. This is what I want to achieve. Da, 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 da. But I'm sure you're already seeing from the stories I've shared so far that success is not linear. Do you get it? It's never a straight line. Sometimes you will start out and you would say, oh, I want to make a first class. And then next thing you know, you have a carryover. How do you go about all these things? How do you balance, all these different events that come with life? So eventually I got into school with my 150 jam. I'll tell you the school I went to. With my 150 jam and my relatively okay, WAEC. But I couldn't get into a government school. I wanted to go to a government school because I always felt that the people that really know book, they are not in all those shimmy private universities. Private universities are for people that their parents have money but they don't have sense. If you are a real scholar, you go and compete with the best of the best. But as my jam entered 150 now, where are we going? Luckily, God provided, and my parents were able to send me to a private school. But somehow, I went into that school with a complex because I kind of felt like I wasn't really that good. So even though I was putting in all the work, I was reading, I was doing everything, I always still felt like I can't really be that good. Because if I was that good, my face, first of all, should be at the back of the jam brochure. I shouldn't have gotten 150 in jam. I should be with the best of the best in the best Nigerian universities. At least, that's what I thought. But I got in first year. Before I got into school, no one had really spoken to me about like CGPAs, and all that. I just knew that I'm coming here, I'm going to study the same way I've been studying. got into school first semester. I think I got like A's, B's, maybe one semester, same thing. And then I realized that first semester I was the best in my class. So that means all these people in this class, they don't know anything. How can I be the best among all? These people, this school is really a school of people that don't know anything. Second semester, the same thing. I was like, what's wrong with these people? You know, second year came, and I think in that second year, I even scaled like all A's. You know, and in law, the higher you go, maybe 100 level, you start out with like legal methods. As your only law course, you have like so many electives, poetry, philosophy, and all those fancy stuff. When you now get into 200, that's when you start doing like maybe constitutional law, legal system, and contract exactly. So I was like, skilled it all is. What are all these people doing? And then I continued like that. Eventually, I graduated top in my class. I thought I was going to make a first class because, come on, all my grades had been good up to that point. In fact, my thesis was so fantastic. My first draft was so fantastic that my supervisor thought I cheated and he had to, because it was new. So he had to ask like other lecturers, like, is this work legit? Like, did this student actually do this? And they're like, yeah, no, she's really good at what she does. But when I got my result, final year result, the stuff was not speaking. The last semester, I wasn't speaking at all. So I ended up graduating, I think, with like a 4.4, 4.2, something like that. So combine that with the thought that, oh, I got a 150 in JAM. I couldn't get into the school of my choice. Now I'm going to law school, and I'm not even going to law school with a first class undergraduate degree in a school of people that don't know anything in my mind, you know. So I went to law school. When I was going to law school, or when I got to law, in fact, before I went to law school, and that's the beauty of, will I say, having mentors and shadowing people. I had two siblings that had already gone to law school, and some people did very well, some people not so well. So I'd seen both sides, but they had books, right? So before I even got to law school, that's to show you the kind of ethical I was. I'd taken like their textbooks and I started reading, summarizing things I understood or things I didn't understand. I was already reading and preparing because I was like, this law school, I know that I'm coming from a disadvantage. That's what I felt in my mind, that I was disadvantaged because I was coming from a private university, and I was going to meet those guys from schools like Uni Abuja that were so smart, and had gotten into university on merit. So I felt like I really had a lot of catching up to do. So I read. Then eventually I got into law school. When I got into law school, I wasn't really thinking, oh, first class, 2 1 2 2. I just wanted to do well. I knew that I wanted, like, I've always had this drive for excellence, but I wasn't really thinking in terms of like specifics. So one of those evenings in law school, early in law school, maybe like the first week, they gave us this brochure that had like details on all your courses and everything you had to do. Then at the end of the brochure, they had a list of prizes. I was like, they're like, you get a prize, best in this, best in that. I was like, and I asked myself, honestly, I was like, if Jesus was in law school, how many of these prizes would he win? I was like, I'm pretty sure he'll be winning, a good number of these prizes. So there and then I told myself, I was like, Ego, you are going to, you are going to win these prizes, and you are going to, you are going to get a first class in law school. So it began the journey, right? What did I start doing? I don't think there was ever a day, maybe one or two, maybe a few, that I didn't go to class without having read, summarized everything that was going to be taught in the class. So, for example, every day in law school, we have like a breakdown of what the outcomes will be, courses, the topics that are going to be taught, the draftings that we're going to do in a class, different things. I've read everything. I've summarized all the topics in my notes, all the notes, everything. I've summarized it. All the drafts, I've practiced it. What am I going to class to do? I'm going to class to clarify. So when the lecturer is teaching, I'm like, okay, I got that, I got that, I got that. Get to that part that when I was studying, I didn't understand. That's all I'm waiting for. I just want the guy to clarify the areas that I didn't understand. So you realize that by the time you study like that for a whole year, how are you going to fail? You cannot fail. You cannot. And of course, that's also including the God factor, right? But you cannot fail. You cannot. That's what I did. It's painful because sometimes you just want to chill with your friends, you want to hang out, you want to watch series 24, Prison Break, you want to watch, you want to play every day. In law school, then you have your own table and chair by your bed. I would make sure. Sometimes it's not easy, but just that discipline of I can't go to this class empty. Because if I go to this class empty, that means everything the teacher is saying, I'm just hearing it for the first time. How am I going to ask the right questions? How am I going to really internalize what is being taught? So that was the discipline. So I did that for during the term. And then another thing I did when I got to school, because I was also still dealing with this mindset, remember, of I'm not good enough. I was only the best among dummies. Right now I'm meeting the people who are actually smart. I told my friends, I was like, we have to join the academic team. So what did we do? When you get to school, you'll be able to spot those people that are like ethicals, that are like their brain is. I was like, those people must be my friends. So I went to join the academic team. I didn't look at myself as someone that will be teaching in that academic team. Oh, no, my own objective for being in that academic team was just so that I'll be near those people that know book. So that I'll be learning from them. I'll be watching everything they are doing. Whatever new handout or past question or technical issue, I'll be at the front line. So that's what my friends and I did. We joined the academic team. And really, we were not the best in the academic team. I think I only taught in the academic team once on charges, but there were guys, and girls that were really good. So I joined the academic team, and then another thing I did was by the time we were done with lectures, remember I spent the whole lecture period reading before every class, clarifying during the lectures, and then just building on that day in, day out. So by the time I was going for my court attachment at the end of all the teaching session, I told myself, okay, now let's just say I've understood the entire syllabus for all the courses. Now I want to read for my exam. Why did I do this? I remember I was reading every day, but one of those days, they gave us a mock test. I was reading every day, remember? I was reading every day. They gave us a mock test. When I saw the test, let me say I got maybe 9 over 20. In that test where I got 9 over 20, people were getting 18. They were calling them out. I say, me. And I know those guys now that were coming out for 18 over 2016. Like those people, they don't read. They don't read. How are they coming out 18 over 2019 and see my score 6, 9? I don't think I got anything. I don't think I got 10 in any of those subjects. And now later I now asked him, how did you do this? Because I know their level. They're like past questions. All the questions they asked us in this mock, they were all past questions. So the only thing those guys have been reading were past questions. Like, oh, that's it, right? Till that point, I didn't know, you know. But eventually I got that. So in my reading and my planning, I included past questions. Okay. So, as I was saying, so what I did, another thing I did was When I went for my course attachment, I brought down the entire syllabus for all the courses. I brought a notebook. I ruled a line. I started with, for example, civil procedure. What are all the topics under civil procedure? I wrote them out. I put a time, 8 o'clock or so. I should have finished all my morning, blah, 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 blah. 8 to 10, this is a topic I'm going to read in civil procedure. 11 to this is a topic I'm going to read in property practice. 2 to this is what I'm going to read in criminal procedure. I planned out the entire syllabus for all the courses with specific days and time. It took a while, and then I started. By the time I was done, of course, I was ready for that bar finals. But you know, the way life is, sometimes what you plan for is not what you see. So I felt I was ready. Honestly, I felt I was ready, you know. So the first paper came, it was good. Second paper came, it was good. In fact, sorry, the first paper, I was like, is this bar finals? This just feels like, do you understand? You know, when you are reading and you're expecting something conk, and then the teacher, they're just asking you, oh, what's this? What's this? What's that? And you're like, hit me with your best shot, man. What's this? You know? So I wrote the first one, second one, third one, the fourth one. That was corporate practice. Honestly, I was shocked because you know how they do it where you have two compulsory questions and the two compulsory questions will be like total 50% and then the others will be 15-15 or something funny. I didn't know Jack. The only thing I remembered was the fact that my lecturer had mentioned this thing while teaching in class. So I was like, okay, no problem. I just wrote what I did. But after that exam, I went to the church next to the exam hall and I cried. I was like, God, am I going to fail? Because when you write your bar finals, they grade you by your list. So even if you get all A's, if you fail one, you get F. So I just felt that, God, am I going to fail this corporate practice? Because I wasn't really, you know, sure about the the answers to those compulsory questions. So I cried. I cried my eyes out. I was like, I still have exam tomorrow, you know. And you know this thing where you come out and people start discussing, oh, what did you write? What did you I'm like, I don't want to talk about what I wrote. Leave me alone. you know. So long story short, I was, I was with my brother, I think, at that point, and they were like, oh, bar finals result is out. And then I was so anxious, because I was like, God, what's it going to be? I was so anxious. So I told my sister to check the results. So she was like, oh, Ego, you made it first. I was like, no, check the results. Because I was like, how did I make it? So eventually I turned out I made a first class in law school. I went on to win, a couple of prizes. I think even in corporate law that I thought I didn't do well. Property, civil, different prizes. And you know, when everything came together, I honestly, till today, if there's one testimony I would say is of God's grace, is that corporate law. Because I don't know who marked that script. People say, oh, they put question mark, question mark, question mark. Somebody now thought it was 7. Maybe that's what happened. But you get, I feel like that was just the grace of God. But it also doesn't undermine the fact that to an extent, I put in the work, do you to get to that particular, point. And from then, went back to school, masters, got a distinction. Me too, I was like, those people in this school, are they sure am I sure I'm meeting with, people that are smart? Because why am I just, doing so well? But I think over time, God has worked on my mind and He has helped me understand that you are smart. Do you understand? There's grace. There's grace for it on you. Just accept it, embrace it, and recognize that there's grace for it. But that's not where the story stopped. So over time, I was working, focusing on legal and all that. But I then eventually decided, as a lawyer, sometimes it's very easy. Once you find a problem or once you're presented with a problem at work, you are just thinking, what does the law say? What does the law say? You're only looking at it through like legal lenses, so to speak. So I was like, I want to enable business. Do you get? I want people to come to me and as a lawyer, but they are also getting a solution that works for the business. So I was like, I want to do an MBA. 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 And then eventually I was able to get like a scholarship from the company to do my MBA. So I started the MBA. You know this thing they say about lawyers that we're not good at maths. But I was like, no, I'll still do this MBA. So I started this MBA, the first two courses, fantastic. Operations management, how to manage operations of a company, leadership. I was like, I can do this now. Did the second set of modules, economics and then accounting and financial management. Hey, God, see this account. When I was in secondary school, I used to sleep. When the teacher is teaching from Frank Woods, I'll just put my book in front of my face. I used to sleep. I used to struggle. Like I'll struggle to get like a 70, but some people will just be getting 98. In accounts, it's very easy to just get everything once you put in your right entries. So that's what happened. So it was a struggle. Eventually, when the results for my accounting and financial management came out, I failed. I what? I failed. I what? I what? Even when you say bang, does it mean is it a good thing? When you say I banged that course, was it a good thing? Like I banged, like I failed. And if you see the teacher's comments, God, those comments can make you cry because those Yankee schools now, they will not just give you grades. They'll tell you, oh, this is where you missed it, this. The comments were not nice. God, I failed. I was like, me. How can I fail? But I did. I failed. And I was so, honestly, I was really broken. I was really, really broken. And I started getting back into that sense of, I can't make it. How am I going to go ahead? That means I'm going to probably have an extra year or an extra half year. I have to write this course again. How am I going to do it? I don't know how to do this course better than I did it the first time, but I failed. And this same thing, Barrister Joe spoke about mentorship. It was around that time I started a mentorship program with my university. And I think having that mentor walk me through, all the issues I was dealing with in school at the time and handling failure, it was priceless. It was priceless. My mentor then, John Bonnet, he was really good. Another mentor that I worked with, and what she told me, I remember it till date. Because one of those days I was really sad. And she was like, Ego, don't build a monument around your failures. When you fail, move. Do you get? Because I made this failure to become this big thing that I would now look at and say, you failed. And she was like, no, Egon, don't build a monument around your failure. If you fail, get out of the failure, move on. There are still other things to win, there are still opportunities for success. And that's what I did. Eventually, I passed the course, and of course, I didn't get a distinction at the end of my MBA, but I did it, and I think I'm a better lawyer for it. All that. Oh, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. So, and don't forget too, MBA is not my comfort zone. My comfort zone is law, right? So all this business, accounting, financial stuff is not my comfort zone. So I was actually just trying to stretch, myself. Um, so I've said all this, just to share, some key principles. I think over the time I've spoken, I've already a lot of principles or values. I feel at the end of the day, you're already in school. This should be first semester now, I think. Some of you are in your first year, second year, whatever. You need to plan. First of all, you need to look at yourself, assess yourself. What are my abilities? SWOT analysis. What are my strengths? You have to be real with yourself. What are my weaknesses? What are those things that are opportunities for me as a student? What are those things that are potential threats that could limit my speed in this area? Then you set goals. I spoke to you about setting goals, how I was setting goals for myself. Set goals this semester. How many A's do I need? If you've looked at where you've started from, maybe Barrister Joe was asking about who is on 2122. If you know that you're on like 2.5, borderline 2.3, you have to set goals. How do I get to a 3.5? You set those goals. When you set those goals, then you plan. You cannot just set goals and then you go and sit down. You plan and you make it real, be detailed. I wrote it out. It took a while because the time I was using to draw up that plan with the entire syllabus, that's time I could have used to read. But I understood that you have to plan so that when you're reading, there is a systematic way to getting to the end point that you're expecting. So you plan, plan. Then you have discipline. It's very easy to have a good plan, a colorful plan with all the pencils, markers and all that. But you need to have discipline. One of my bosses, and he will say he's my mentor, but one of my bosses, he says this thing. He says, "You may be smarter than me, but you cannot beat me in discipline. You cannot." He says it like, "You may be smarter than me, but you can't beat me in discipline." This guy is disciplined. If Coyote has a deadline for maybe March ending, he has done the work today. I'm telling you, he has done the work today. That work he has done today is as good as what he will submit at the end of March. He'll do it, he'll go and sleep. The guy is disciplined. He shows up every day, follows through with his plans, he's disciplined. It's easy to have a desire. Oh, I want to be the first class student. Oh, I want to have all A's this semester. In fact, I've set a goal. A. Oh, I've set plans. But you don't have the discipline to follow through. Remember what I said. Success is not linear. It's not just straight. You just they go. So, no. To even take the first step when you've made that plan is a lot of work. When you now write the exam and you fail, what do? Are you going to fail and stop? Or are you going to fail forward? That was another thing I learned, some of those books we read growing up, how to fail forward. Are you going to fail and stop? Or are you going to fail forward? Are you going to take that failure not as a monument where you stop and that's where your life ends, but you take that failure and you're like, yes, I failed before, but I will still win, because that's how success is. Anybody that comes to tell you, oh, I've succeeded all my life, I now tell a joke that I can't tell my children that I've never had a carryover. Those parents I will say, in my days, I was the best in my class. That was my story until I went for my master's. And then now I have a carryover. So I can't tell my children I've never had a carryover. I'm like, I've had a carryover. It wasn't easy. It was difficult, but I was able to pull through and I'm better for it. So I think that's also a word of encouragement to someone here who is feeling like, I've failed. I have so many carryovers. I don't even know how I'm going to proceed from here. It's not the end. Failure is not the end. Failure is not the end. Many people you see that are succeeding today or that you admire, if they break down the series of failures they've had, you realize that you've not even started failing. You still have more failures ahead, and we embrace it. Now we embrace failure. It's learning. We embrace failure. If it comes, we welcome it, we hug it, then we drop it, and then we move on, and then we win again. That's what we do. So just in trying to wrap up, does academic success equal success in life? Like he was saying, is everybody that makes a first class that becomes successful? The answer is a big no. I made a first class in law school. I went for my master's, I made a first class. Whilst I was doing my master's in the UK, I sent out applications to many, firms I felt I was going to work with. Only one firm called me. One. Even me, I was shocked. I was like, "Do you see my CV? Did you see it?" You know? And then I had people that didn't do as well. And when I saw where they were working, I was like, what's happening? This thing is not balancing. This thing is not balancing. So the lesson there is academic success does not equal success in life. But one thing it does, yes, it's a tool. Because on my second job, when I went for the interview, the chairman of the company was just like, "See, as I've seen first class on your CV, I know you are smart. Let's just get on to talking about other things. I want you to work for me." Da, 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 da. Do you get? I would say it opens doors because people just take it that if you have a first class, you're probably good at what you do. You're probably paying attention to details. You're probably disciplined. They'll just assume some things about you, but it doesn't equal success in life. It's a combination of many things. It's a tool set. Tool set, you do get. Some of those things that I would say add up to, success is skills. You talked about skill set, right? Other skills, people skills. You see this thing called people skills. It's now this thing they don't teach you in law school. There are many things when I got into the workplace, I was like, they don't teach you this in law school. Oh, they don't teach you this in law school. Do you get how to manage people, how you relate with people? It is so fundamental. Like there was someone I was meant to hire for a position on my team. Someone sent me his CV. Everything checked out, on the CV. But when I now saw the name, I was like, I know this guy. Oh. This guy never, I can never work with him. I can never work with him. Hey. And that was how it was not even, I was not even going to consider it. But if I didn't know the guy, if I was just going to work based on like his academic qualifications, he was excellent. In fact, he was overqualified for the job. But I knew that the kind of team dynamic I wanted with my teammates, this guy, he won't fit in. Zero people skills. Zero. He doesn't know how to talk to people. He speaks to people anyhow. He feels that he's a know-it-all. And most of the time, people that feel they know it all, they don't know much, you know. So people skills is so, so important. Again, we are all growing. So if you feel like you're low on people skills, it's a good opportunity to. Are you giving me sign that? Oh, okay. It's a good opportunity to improve on that. I think another skill, still on people's skills, will be networking, meeting people. Like my current job, how did I get in my current job? The lady I was working with at the law firm, she just called me one of those days. In fact, by the time she was calling me, I was fed up at my job because one of my partners at the firm was giving me a tough time, and I was like, God, I need to leave this job. I can't continue. So she just called me. She was like, would you like to work in oil and gas? I was like, what kind of question is that? Of course. So she was like, there's this opportunity, da 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 da, call this person up, and then that was how I got the job. Had the meeting, you know, that was how I got in. I'm saying that because at the point where she was telling me the experience about the opportunity, she's a lawyer. She has more experience than I did at the time. So I'm like, why are you not taking this opportunity for yourself? She get this is a fantastic role. Why aren't you taking this opportunity for yourself? But she gave me that opportunity. I'm not saying I'm the best of friends or I'm the best human being, but I think it probably had something to do with maybe my people skills or my ability or the relationship that I had with her. So it's very important. You don't know the person that you feel is not likely to succeed or least likely to succeed, and you look down on the person, might just be the person that might, have his ear to the ground on an opportunity that might just be perfect for you. So interrelationship, your people skills, how you relate with people is very, very important. Very, very, very important. So people skills, of course, communication, ability to think, ability to think, writing skills. You'll be surprised. Some people that I've worked with, when they write for me, fresh from university, I'm like, what are they teaching you people in school? Can't write. How do you write your name and start with small letters? A graduate. Are you a small girl? Do you get like simple sentences, not there? Some of these things you might not learn it in class, so to speak. You should, but you might not learn it in class. But because you know where you're going, you build, do you get, you invest those skills into yourselves. Ability to write, ability to speak, ability to communicate, ability to think, and ability to think creatively. Because not, like I said, not every problem might be a legal problem, but it's probably a structural problem. If you look deeply, it's probably a political problem. It's probably a social problem. But if you're not thinking deeply and critically about those issues, you just when they give a section 222 of the constitution says, and that's not what the business needs. Do you get? So some of these skills, how do you build these skills? Practically, how do you build these skills? We spoke about he spoke about shadowing. I'm also adding to that like volunteering, interning. Do you get? It's so important. Getting some work experience before you actually, get into the proper workplace. It is so, so, so important. And it might be something as simple as working in your mother's shop, but there is a way you go about that work that allows you to develop these skills: time management, people management, analytical skills, writing skills. All those things are helpful. I was about to say, praise the Lord. Yeah, so if there are opportunities to work with Gypsy on some of their mentoring programs, I think you should take advantage because I've done a couple of sessions with Gypsy, and you find that the people they bring as mentors on their platform, those are people that have like experience, that like top tier in those areas they are speaking on. So one thing you can do is to connect with them during those sessions, but to maybe also go further, like he was talking about, connect to them on LinkedIn, follow the things they're saying, check out the people that they are connected with or connected to, and start building your own network like that. They might also open you up to like opportunities within their own spaces. So it's very, very important. And at the end of the day, you find out that when you're building, because you're already building your CV, right? You find out that when you're building your CV, by the time you are done with school, it won't just be LLB or BA or BS in this. You would have like so many short courses, a couple of professional courses, online, Coursera, all those things that you can add. And when an employer or a potential employer looks at your CV, person is like, this person has been busy. Do you know what the CV does for you? Is at the very least it gets you an interview, right? But if your CV is just BA this, second class lower, or some people even write the class. Once they don't write the class, you're like, this is probably a pass. This is probably a pass or a tutu. Because if it was a first class, you would definitely put it there. But when you have those other courses that can complement, whatever undergraduate degree you have, then at the very least, this person wants to meet with you because you've made yourself an interesting person. And the person has looked at your CV and the person is like, oh, I would like to meet with this person. Yes, it was a third class in law school, but person says he has done this, she has done this, she has done this, she volunteers with this organization, she does this. I want to meet with this person. And that's just the fact. Because I look at CVs, people who want to work, and I'm like, this CV just looks like it looks like every other CV. I'm a committed, something, interested in this. I'm like, I've seen this. Everybody's committed to excellent. It's the same thing, But all these different courses or unique short courses that you would take, or volunteering, opportunities that you've taken advantage of, that you put in your CV, it makes the person see, different aspects. And that's to add to that question she made about doing many things. It can be a weakness, but it can also be a strength in a way because it shows that you're in school, you were not just only reading your books, did you get? You were volunteering with Salvation Army. You were working with this choir, and you're a chorister. There's a way to touch the fact that I worked in a choir or I served in a choir. Oh, I was, administering some musical professionals. you know, there's a way to package, things. So any little thing you're doing, any little area you're volunteering, and you can also be a bit more strategic if you know that the organization you would like to work in is probably, get towards like women or girls' rights or health. Maybe you start volunteering in that direction, so that when you get to that end line, you've kind of created an image on paper at the very least, because sometimes what's on paper is different from the person, right? But at least you can put on paper that this is who you are and you fit that mold, of what they're looking for. I think I've spoken more than 30 minutes. Yeah, right. But thank you very much for your time.
Questions?
If you have questions,
Questions, yeah.
yeah, please ask me
Okay,
questions.
someone has one here.
But not jam question. Remember, I made 150. So
Yes, thank you.
thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. My name is Fred.
Thank you,
I
sir.
I hear you speak very nicely about studies, about how to prepare, you know, classes, exams, lectures, and similar things. Very good. And also, it tends to bring in some form of discipline. Also, very good. Most of us who grow up on campuses, most of us who are parents who are academics, you learn discipline even on campus
Yeah.
a lot, how to study
Yeah.
and how to think critically.
Yeah.
One thing that I love about students these days is that they lack critical thinking. Yes. You mentioned Coursera, you mentioned edX, most massive open online courses. I've taken over 600. I have more than 40
Wow.
certifications.
Wow.
But one thing I realize about them is that even in my 800 level courses and 900 level courses, I do not find critical thinkers. That's the reason I stopped following mentorship programs. I learned from my Jamaica friends in UK that if you want to make progress, learn to think like a lion. Don't be a conformist to people who turn you to sheep. And sometimes these mentors will begin to tell you about things that are not even important. You know, they rather bring down your thinking. So I stopped that. So I'm trying to see how do you now balance up this kind of stuff. Mentorship is good. Sometimes also affects your mental health. Your mentor might lead you astray. So I stop following mentors. I think for myself. Because I want to be able to chart a path for myself I could follow and justify what I'm doing. Mentorship is good. We're in an average tower. This is a university. Follow mentors. Are there reasons we should not follow mentors? Let us understand.
Okay. Okay. I think it's just like when we say salt is good, salt is good, salt is good. Do you make soup and just pack a bag of salt? Do you? It's like these people, they like salt. Do you make soup and just, the only thing in your soup is salt? So, sir, that's just to answer the question, the issue around mentorship. Mentorship is good, but with everything in life, balance is critical. And when we say mentoring, and I like the point you made, because as soon as you said it, it jumped at me because it was also something I had to learn consciously. And I think I I learned it more when I studied abroad because, like I said, I know how to read very well. So we'll read, we'll go to the hall, we'll write. And most times our lecturers, I think they like us to give them what we read. When I studied in the UK, the times I gave my lecturer what I read, I didn't do well. They want to know how you're able to challenge what they're telling you. And again, maybe if I had done that as an undergraduate, I probably would have done better than I did. Maybe I probably wouldn't have gotten a 4.2. I probably would have gotten a 5.0. So maybe that was what was missing, you know. But it's very important, the point you made about critical thinking. If someone tells you, oh, all men are evil, you need to be able to look at that concept of all men are evil and break it down. You won't just tell your lecturer, are all men evil? Yes, all men are evil. No. First of all, before we even begin to debunk who a man is in this society that we live in, you're already showing critical thinking. Before you now debunk what is evil and what forms the basis of evil, how do you determine what is evil? Who is the judge over what is evil or not? You get? So by the time you begin to think critically, you now actually begin to provide, will I say, your own argument or your own voice to the discussion. And that is what makes for, learning. That's how we really learn, by thinking critically. So I agree with you. There is need for balance. Mentors, you can't have a mentor that is, dangerous to your own personal health. And you're like, no, they said we should have a mentor, and you stay there. You can't have a mentor that does not align with your values, but you say, no, they said we should have a mentor, and you're still there. So a balance is required. But I agree with you, the issue around critical thinking. Thank you very much, sir.
Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, my name is Williams, 300 level, University of Abuja. I just want to appreciate you. You made something that I really want to appreciate. You spoke about relationship, and I'm so grateful for that because on this campus, that has been what has been helping me a lot because I leverage on the power of relationship, and it has paved way for me like nothing else. So I'm so grateful for that. Thank you.
Any other question? Okay, someone.
Hello, good afternoon. Hi, my name is Ore, and I'm a 400 level student. So, please, I wanted to ask you a question.
Hello.
And the question is, when are you sure that the risk is worth it? For instance, now, um, like in the school we are today, or how the Nigerian federal university system operates, it's not really about what you know. Um, I don't know how to put it. Sometimes you know and you write, but then it's not what the result doesn't show. And sometimes for instance, when you made the example of how it was abroad, is how you can argue what you know, like how you can argue against what was given to you.
Yeah.
But then I have a particular lecturer.
Yeah.
You don't think outside the box. You give him what he gave you. That is how you pass the course.
Yeah.
And I have another lecturer. He's that kind of person that you think of outside the box. But then the system we are used to now is what they've given to you, you give it back. So, and it's a cycle that we have been part of for over 10 years. So, how do you like break out of it? And how is the risk worth it in, for instance, sorry, that's another question. The risk being what it is like. Sorry for making reference to your jam and everything.
No, enjoy. See, I own that failure, so don't worry.
Yes,
I
but
should
then,
have won the shirt. I had 115 jam. That's fine.
but then, with that jam score, you were still able to like, enter university and make an admirable result and everything. And but reference to myself, like you said from your family, my dad too is this kind of academic person, and then I wrote jam twice, to be honest.
Yeah.
And my first jam, I got to 60, but I didn't get admission.
Wow.
Yes. So, and then the second jam, I got far lower than that. And I got admission with that. So it seemed as if all the study I did for the first one wasn't worth it. The second one, it was even by force because I was greatly discouraged. So when is it like, when are you sure that it's worth it? Like, I don't know. Do you understand what I'm
I
trying to say?
understand you completely.
Sorry.
Ah,
Okay.
please, can I just, because I
Okay.
don't, my brain is sharp, but
No
it's not
problem.
sharp like some
Problem.
people. Let me just be answering it. Honestly, I feel you. Do you understand? Like, I totally get you. Let's start with this jam thing. Like, a niece of mine, I think he had 270 something or what, and he was trying to get into this great, prestigious University of Abuja. Nothing, no. You know this thing where they will promise you, oh, the VC is minuting on your paper right now. Tomorrow you will see your admission has come. Oh no, the VC was minuting on it, then the minister called her, then so I feel you because it's almost like it's not given when you go and you think that the system is going to work. But like they say, Nigeria happens to you. So what I would say, and again, if it makes sense to you, you can take it. If it doesn't, you can just leave it. It's fine. But I just feel that at the end of the day, it's just like sometimes at work when you're giving your best, you're putting in your 100, but you don't feel appreciated. You're working like an elephant, but they are paying you like an ant. And you ask yourself, why? Why don't I just be the regular Joe and just do the bare minimum? Because nobody recognizes the fact that I'm putting in all this work. But what I've always told myself is any improvement I make on myself is for me. Value will always meet value. That's one thing I like to tell myself. You see, so you think I'm working like this for you, you are making big bucks, but you're paying me 100K. Don't worry. I will get so good at what I do, right? That someone who is willing to pay me $500,000 a month will not even think twice. So go ahead and keep paying me 100K. The day I will just move like this because someone has recognized my value. It's to do you like film trick. So what am I saying? You don't have control over the system, but you have control over yourself. You have control over your goals. You have control over your own personal development. And when you develop yourself, when you invest yourself, nobody can take it away from you. Nobody. They give you admission, they don't give you admission. They recognize you, they don't recognize you. You are growing yourself. What are you building? You're building resilience. You're building the ability to adapt. Do you understand? Because now you've noticed that some lecturers, if you give them tit for tat, you will fail. But some, they like you to challenge. Do you understand? So you're building that thing we talked about, critical thinking. You are understanding people. That's people skills right there. Because now when you transfer such a skill to the workplace, you know that, oh, there are some bosses that like you to present like this. When you meet those bosses, you present like that. When you meet the ones that require you to present in another way, what are you doing? You are navigating your way to the top. So don't just relax. Nigeria is happening to all of us in one way or the other. Do you get? Not every environment wants people to think or to challenge. No, not every environment calls for that. If you want to be the radical type and your goal is not to get an A, but to make a point, please, by all means, you know, go for it. But if your goal is to just quietly get your A and leave this uni Abuja, auntie, know your lecturer, this is how he likes, just give it to him, pass. Do you get? What are you building? Ability to understand people is very, very important. I don't know if I've helped you with the question, but it's always worth it. Taking a risk on yourself is always worth it. Investing in yourself, it is always worth it. Nobody can take it from you. Nobody. Yeah, so keep up the good work. Well done.
Okay. Hello.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good
My
afternoon.
name is Albert Gibson, a 200 level faculty of education. My question is on regards to issue of making good CGPA. I'm impressed about your achievements. And it happens that I have a friend who has averagely 4 points something, 4.01 or so in her CGPA. So I was discouraging her like that. You can't make first class. That this university don't give first class to students. So I don't know. Like, how do I encourage her, having known that there was a time you ever failed, but you still made some good grades? How do I encourage
Should it take more? Should
Let
it
me
take?
answer his question. Sorry.
Okay.
Or do you want me to take more? Let me
I think you
allow
should.
you. Okay, go ahead.
I think you should take
Okay, go ahead.
any other one. Oh,
Good afternoon, everyone. My name
Good
is Khalid.
afternoon.
I wanted to ask, it's about career aspects, the aspect of career. Yeah, a lot of us actually here struggle with career choosing and like trying to decide what career to choose. At the end of the day, after graduating school, we have to like pick a career. So I want to ask about, I'm also troubled with the thought that if I pick a career today, it might actually not go my way because it's not actually what I love doing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not actually what I love doing. So
Yes.
if I'm scared, like, okay, if I pick this career at the end of the day, will I end up doing it forever? I end up loving doing it, or should I change at some point? That point of like to realizing to change is my area of concern. When to stop and when to grow, when to like develop more, and then reverse.
Please let me just answer these two questions. Yeah. So the first one about whether she should, I think it's kind of similar to, the situation this young lady has. It doesn't matter if they will give you, they won't give you. Part of the reason why I felt I didn't make a first class in my undergrad was because the lady who made the first class in the set before me, in my uni at the time, that went to law school, when she went to law school, she failed like everything. And she was the best graduating student in my faculty. So I felt they then felt they needed to tighten, whatever it was. And so people who probably should have made a first class, like yours truly, they didn't give us. Do you get? So that thing about schools saying we don't give first class, I think it's just stupid, right? If a student worth, that particular grade, give it. First class is not for the lecturer to keep in their pocket. They too, did they even get first class? So it sometimes it's bad belly, you know. But I think similar to what I told that young lady, just tell her if she's improving herself, it's for her. If she's studying and building that spirit of excellence, it's for her. Because it's that spirit of excellence that you will take into the workplace and you will always go the extra mile to deliver excellently. So just encourage her to look beyond, what Uni Abuja might be doing. And another thing is, if she gives up now, Jigger, what happens if at the point where she's graduating, there are actually people in positions, of authority that are now willing to reward students according to their performance? Then she would have disqualified herself. Jigger. Because if that's now the year Wike says, everybody must give students, there must be a first class from this university. Now they'll be looking for the first class student and she has given up. Do you get? So you just have to be prepared always so that when the opportunity comes, it will meet you prepared. And you shouldn't, let that happen. Then the other guy's topic, a question. Funny enough, I wrote about it in my notes, but I just didn't talk about it because of time. But it's a very valid question. This thing around your passion, what you want to do, and what's actually relevant, isn't it? And what potentially would pay your bills. And the example I gave was, let's say you grew up, wanting to be a petroleum engineer all your life. And then you graduate into an economy where they are phasing out fossil fuels. Do you have a job for the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years? What are you going to do with your life? So that's why I spoke about, being able to pivot and being able to also rethink, what you're studying, what career you would want to get into, and what the broader scope of what you want to do is. So maybe someone who finds himself in that petroleum engineering, arrangement might be like, okay, there are some skills I have here that I can also use in like renewables. So you now start pivoting in that direction. I don't know if I'm answering your question, but that's why spoke. Okay, maybe I didn't make the point that we should move beyond degrees to skills. And I think the first speaker spoke about that when he spoke about the mindset, the skill set, and then the tool set. You need to move beyond, oh, I have this degree. So what can you actually do? What are those skills you have? That's what the degree might get you into the job, but what's going to take you up are your skills. Do you get? So that's kind of the balance. Like when I was finishing school, I was all about human rights, man. I wanted to do human rights. In fact, I wanted to do my dissertation on the law of wars, armed conflict. I was so interested in armed conflict. Please, what I'm doing today, does it have anything to do with the war in Ukraine? you know, and when I went to do my master's, I told my father, if I don't study international law, I'm not going to study. My father was like, no, you must do something that is marketable. So that's why when you're thinking about a career, I would advise, again, you can take it or you can leave it, but I would advise don't be quote unquote organization focused. I have a friend that was like, I must work in the World Trade Organization. What did this guy not do to work in World Trade Organization? Today, where does he work? He works in a law firm somewhere in Houston. Is he at World Trade Organization? Is he facilitating international trade? Maybe on some level. But if he had built and he had been so firm that if it's not World Trade Organization, I'm not going anywhere, and it didn't work out for him, what's going to happen? So sometimes you have to wake up. You also have to be able to balance what your passion is with what is relevant and what is marketable. You cannot say, my passion is music. Nobody has called you to do any gig. Your children are hungry. You are still there saying your passion is music when you can fry akara and your akara is the best. But you are still there saying, no, God told me my passion is music. But no, do you understand what I mean? Sometimes you just have to wake up. Does it mean you will abandon that music? Not necessarily, but you need to be able to balance what your passion is, what is relevant, what the market requires of you, what you have that the market also requires, and you take advantage. It's similar to the question he was asking about opportunities. So even if your passion is music, but you're good at akara, maybe what you want to do now is to teach someone, who can be doing that akara, and then you're sharing profits or something, and then you see how you can drive that music. Do you get? But it's a balancing act. And the thing about career also is it grows. There are certain things I wrote, I didn't even read them out, but there are a couple of things I had written, and I was like, in 5 years from graduating, I want to do my PhD. Did I do PhD? No. I said after I do my PhD, I want to work in an international organization focused on human rights. Have I worked in an international organization focused on human rights? No. I said, once I'm done with that, in the next 10 years or so, I'll come back and I'll lecture. Have I lectured? No. I enjoy teaching, and I did teach at a point. I was teaching students from the University of London who were studying in Nigeria. I did that for a bit, and it was quite rewarding, But what I'm saying is some of those plans that I set out and I wrote them, like a lot of things. In the journey to success is like this. It's not straight. I hope that helps.
Okay. And sorry, I noticed some people are shy. They don't want to use the mic. And if you are like that, you could just write your question and give it to me. You want to ask?
Or you can just say a friend of mine. I know someone. Those
Okay.
questions. We'll understand. Don't worry.
Is there any other person? Okay, nobody. Okay, you want to write? No, you don't need to tell me if you're shy. Just when you write, you can even give somebody to pass the paper to me. No problem. Okay, so I think I have one here.
Okay.
Should I read or should? Okay. What if you have a big dream that you're aware it's bigger than, I guess you, but you still want to chase it. I have shared this dream with people and they say it's impossible. Do I have to adjust my dreams because of my current state or just focus on other things?
That's why I said it's a balance, and I think it's also similar to what I was saying. Like, was it yesterday or so? I was reading about this lady, Nina Simone. I think it popped up on my Google, and I was like, oh, let me just check into, this lady. And of course, she grew up in like, you know, racist America where they had like segregation and all that. And she always wanted to be like a classical pianist, but she didn't get the opportunity to study like classical music at the institutions and at the level that she wanted to. But eventually, she went on to become, like a very famous musician, very famous producer, and she, to an extent, you can say she succeeded, in her on the path that she took. So is it okay to have a big dream? By all means. By all means. Honestly, sometimes I tell myself, I'm like, Aaron, you need to dream bigger. Do you understand? There's something about a dream that is so big that it just builds a certain kind of excitement within you. The possibility of having that dream, become a reality, it just makes you so excited about life. It's what makes you wake up, in the morning and you're like, hey, I want to go. I want to do this again because there is something big in you. People are looking at you, but you have gone. You are in your dream world. It's good. But the point I was making is that, and I'm being real with you, life will happen. And sometimes, and this is where I would say the God factor comes in. As a Christian, I would say the favor factor comes in, where somehow it just feels like your steps are ordered and your dreams, you are able to birth those dreams. But it doesn't happen like that. Like you dream, then just look at the story of Joseph now. You just dream like this. Next thing, sun and the moon. It doesn't happen like that. So whilst you're on that journey, what are you going to do? You have a dream that you're going to build the machine that will be able to braid and loosen hair for Nigerian girls so that they will not be going to salon to sit down for 4 hours to braid their hair. Nothing. That has not happened. Do you understand? What are you going to do? You get up and you take advantage of what is, in front of you. But I think the balance there too is sometimes we now let go of that dream that we have, and then we lose ourselves and we lose that sense of fulfillment because what you're doing at that time doesn't fulfill you. So I think the balance there is still holding on to that dream, still finding ways, creative ways, other means to still get on track with that dream. But whilst you are trying to do that, you still need to keep body and soul together. So you need to, that's the aspect of realism. This is my own approach to life, right? Just taking a bit more practical approach, And I thank God for my father that was like, please, I'm not going to spend all these thousands of foreign currency. Then you tell me you want to study law of international armed conflict. Where are you going to fight? It's like, go and read commercial law. And that's what I read, And I was so concerned that if I read commercial law, I wouldn't do well. That was what I thought, that I wouldn't do well because I didn't have a passion for it. But I had a distinction. I did well. And I also tried to get to the root of why I was so interested in humanitarian law and all that. And I realized that I always wanted to have like a social impact element in what I was doing. That was really, the underlying value. I wanted my work to be meaningful. I wanted to have like meaningful contributions beyond just advising companies. And I found other ways, do you get? to meet that social impact quota, for my existence. So I don't know if that question, if that answer answers that question. Yeah, but that's my
Okay.
take on it.
I think if you have more questions, you could just write them so we can allow Gypsy, can allow Magiliana speak.
Okay.
So if you have more questions, you could just write, or maybe at the end, we just. But I think let me read this.
Okay.
This one. I think it's someone wrote a love letter to you that
Aww.
I don't really have a question, but I just want to compliment your laughter, smile, and dressing. I love
I'm
them.
blushing.
People come down and hear the love story now. I love them. You seem like a sweet soul.
Aww.
From Chiamaka. Who's Chiamaka?
This is a Valentine something. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. Love you too. I love the afro. Love it, love it, love it. Oh, this note, I should keep it.
That's the love letter.
Thank you.